of investigative reporting, because you can't go into situations making objective records of things. You're supposed to, I guess, have a good memory and write these things down, where these states have laws against recording. So that's something we face here. Some of you may have heard my camera was stolen from me for 2 months because I was accused of having recorded a meeting with a public official. Here in Concord, there was someone whose whole house got tossed because he was accused of recording a meeting with a public official. Fortunately for me, they didn't enter my home. They waited to snatch me outside of it when I only had a camera on me. But the wiretapping laws that currently exist in the state enable the police to go after people who are accused of recording in very ambiguous situations. And unfortunately, out in public, walking around on the sidewalk, none of that has ever been called into question. But yeah, other sorts of recording can get you into legal issues. So be careful of that. I'd say document everything, record everything, and be strategic about how you release it.
Quick question. If you're in public, you're still supposed to tell the cop you're recording them, right? Is that the current law, or can you?
I don't believe that.
Okay, is that enough? Well, are you going to get arrested? Yeah.
If they took action against you in public, there's a good chance you've got a settlement waiting for you at the end of some legal process. So, for what that's worth, where someone has an expectation of privacy is where that law applies.
Another question for you: when they seize the camera, do they convict you of something first before they seize it, or how do they seize it?
That was part of an investigation. They were investigating alleged wiretapping. Whether or not they actually had probable cause is something we'll find out when the lawyer who's interested in taking that case forward brings something up civilly. Yeah, the Robin Hood case is pending appeal to the Supreme Court, and the case of my camera getting stolen, we plan to take action on that. There is a lawyer interested sometime in the near future. The different ways of doing media, when you're uploading lots of raw footage, you have to be very conscious of, obviously, you're walking around, you're catching yourself just in normal conversations with all sorts of people. I see why there's not too many people that are doing the practice of just uploading everything and putting more of it out there. Most of what I'm putting out, of course, isn't getting viewed. Most of it's irrelevant. It's just stuff I'm shooting throughout the day. But of course, as the Robin Hood case develops, as different things develop, you may find that footage is useful in the future. With the case of the Robin Hood, there was all of these allegations that we were harassing or intimidating or bullying the parking enforcers. And of course, with hundreds of hours of video and none that anyone could point to say, here's where there's inappropriate behavior going on, that was something that aided our case. The city really had nothing to present as far as physical evidence because they didn't have any. In another way, this is very much intellectual property activism. Just by going out and recording lots of things, if you're recording sound like music, your stuff will get yanked off YouTube. That's not guaranteed, but if you're catching newer songs just over the radio that's playing in the background, sometimes that stuff will be removed, and I see that as a form of censorship. I mean, yeah, YouTube owns the servers and everything, but right now we don't have a free space where you can just put out content unless you provide your own server space. But I think that's a great thing to try and combat what we can do under the guise of Creative Commons. With my television show on Cheshire TV, I have to sign an agreement each week that I'm not violating IP or something. But I mean, I consider all of that stuff irrelevant. If something's out there, it's for you to use. And so, yeah, that's an important issue I think to push forward. Is just that you can use something if it's out there, and yeah, like people, they may try and take legal action against blogs for posting pictures or, but anything. I haven't faced any legal issues with that. I mean, I guess there were some people that wanted to report us to Disney because we have a picture of Disney's cartoon Robin Hood from the 70s on the cards. And I haven't heard of any action from them. I only think that would top the action from the city if we did actually get sued by Disney. So yeah, there's a number of places where the different content I've been putting out is. I try and focus on different YouTube channels, have different types of content. So listed up here, Freeman TV Raw, that's where all of the content that I shoot gets uploaded. Derek J actually created that channel initially to put up his raw content. I believe he has another one now that he's been using more, and like I said, I've kind of co-opted that one. Free Concord TV, that one's been around a lot longer. That's a little bit more journalism type activism videos. Those ones are a little bit more serious usually. And the Aqua Keen channel is where I'm putting more of the artistic, creative content that skirts the IP laws a lot more. And yeah, I think I think it's important that we do more video. I mean, a lot of us have video cameras or carrying them with us, but how many instances have there been where there have been interactions with police, and because we didn't have it charged at that time or didn't have space left on the camera at that time, that people have run into issues. So using multiple devices, having multiple devices on you at every time, and just having that be a daily habit is something that I think is going to improve a whole lot and expose a lot more that isn't being caught right now.
I have a question. If someone is going to film the police, like say I'm by myself and I have I'm just supposed to point the camera at him while he writes me a speeding ticket, or, you know, how does that work?
Well, that's why multiple devices are great to have. For every device you have, it's like having another witness. It's like having, it's even better than having a witness, because witnesses are fallible. The objective record can't be questioned. So that's why I advocate carrying multiple devices. If your cell phone can live stream, that's even better. Having things go off-site, of course, is way better than having it on-site where it can be destroyed or tampered with. There's newer technologies where the SD cards have Wi-Fi built into them, so even if your camera isn't capable of that, you could have it transmitting somewhere to a separate device, or these are extra safety measures. Fortunately, I feel like those aren't all that necessary here in New Hampshire. I mean, police brutality isn't, we don't hear about the craziest stories here that you hear about in LA or New York or other major cities. But at the same time, since this is more of a place where people are stepping forward to do more videography and documentation of police activities, we should be advancing the technology and using it more, of course, to our advantage. So yeah, multiple devices are great to have. Put a device on your dashboard, put a device on your passenger seat if you get pulled over, and then your hands are free and you can interact as you need to with the officer. Anyone have any questions about things like I said, go into like archiving lots of video. One thing, if you're uploading lots of video, it's easy to get lost in the mix of like what's in there and what you actually captured. I'm usually not even watching everything I captured most of the time. So labeling it's important. As soon as it's getting uploaded, date, the situation, like what it is, usually just Robin Hooding, what happened that day, if anything interesting happened, like interactions with these people, nice person came and gave change or something like that, so you can find it if you need to. Obviously, because we have done so much videography, there's a lot of content there. If there is, and it sounds like there's a lot of interest in a documentary being made about the subject, so all of this content's already there. I know many of you have seen Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. That was a great example of Bo, who's a very talented editor, was able to just take a lot of what was already captured and put it together into something that will reach out to a lot more people than would have seen those videos individually. Anyone interested in putting content on the local TV stations here? Because I know Manchester does have one. It would be nice to see that going on.
There are some people who've expressed interest in it. I don't see them here right now, but I expect that to start happening.
Cool. Yeah, the way local TV works is you literally just submit either a DVD or you go in with a USB drive with your content on it. Usually it needs to be in a certain format, MPEG. And you need to just have an opening and a closing disclaimer usually that says that the producer is responsible for this content, not the station. In Cheshire TV, they tell us that they don't even watch it. They don't claim any responsibility for what we put on. So in the late night hours, you can put X-rated content if you want to. Nobody really takes advantage of it, though.
You're not going to be the first, are you?
Well, actually, our friend Conan has a show called Black Sheep Rising, and it's the only mature content program on Cheshire TV. And usually that's just because of profanity. It's a talk show. But yeah, I'm surprised people aren't taking advantage of that. But obviously, if you put it on during the clean hours, you'll get far more viewers.
What kind of camera should you have?
A cheap video camera that is HD run you about $200. Especially if you get a Sony, those are great in low light conditions, and I find that they start up very quickly. I recently got a DSLR. I'm actually wearing the attachment for a DSLR that you can just plug it into here and almost wear it like a GoPro, which I found very convenient. A lot better than wearing a strap around your neck, which is a big weight on your neck. But I didn't bring it with me today, but I use an X grip to mount my camera onto a video camera. And an X grip is basically just a U that has a little tripod screw on the bottom of it. And that's great because you can flip it around and be filming behind yourself over your shoulder, and then just move the viewfinder to where you need it. So for $200, you can get yourself a cheap camera. An audio recorder that can run you $40, and that's a great thing to have running if you're out doing any sort of activism. Yeah, and cheap DSLRs are now like $250 bucks, so it's not too hard to have a pretty good setup and be able to produce a high quality product with that.
Are you archiving your stuff on like a secret host or secret server so it can't easily be removed? Or use a commercial site?
If by secret server you mean an external hard drive, then sure. When I upload everything to YouTube, there's some stuff I haven't downloaded. I've just uploaded it and never got around to archiving it. But yeah, I try to archive everything I shoot each day, and by uploading it with the title, with the date in it, it's a way of sorting it automatically so that each file has the date, the activity, the date Robin Hooding, and then the number of out of the clips that are in there. Yeah, other than YouTube, YouTube seems the most successful. I guess there's LiveLeak. Blip is also pretty popular, and they don't censor stuff. They won't take it down, I don't think. IP is something that they run into, though, with like Hollywood movies or popular music. Of course, you may get attacked in that way. But yeah, if there's no other questions, if anyone has interest in hearing more about Robin Hooding or trying to do it here, I got some extra cards with me, and also the flyers that we leave on people's windshields when they get a ticket. It would be cool to see that replicated here too, even though there's only limited meter space here, but yeah. Oh, and there's a new system in Keene too, I guess. Manchester may have something similar, or maybe getting it soon, but we still have parking meters. There's limited places that have kiosks, but recently they're trying out a new electronic payment system where the parking enforcers have smartphones, and in a zone, one signs up with an account and a credit card ahead of time, and they can fill their space remotely with their phone. And I guess one of the issues with it is if you're parked in a space where there's no time limit, where you can park for more than 2 hours, that's not so much of an issue. But now that they have this technology, they're using it to cite people for 2-hour violations. So if you're parked in one of these zones, you can fill up for 2 hours, and they'll know that you had been there just 2 hours, as opposed to if you filled up the meter and they weren't keeping track. So it's a new way for them to ticket people, and they think that it'll make us double spend, and we will in some instances where it looks like a meter is empty, but we're putting change in it.
In Boston, they've always done that by marking your wheel with chalk, and they'll just do their 2-hour lap and see if the chalk hasn't moved.
Yeah, there was a short period of time when some Robin Hooders were taking it upon themselves to remove some chalk from tires, remove some graffiti. But we were very nicely presented with a New Hampshire statute that I believe was called like falsifying evidence, and it was pretty much like interfering with a police investigation. And they were like, "This is a felony, just so you know, like you're not allowed to do that." I thought it was nice of them not to arrest us. I think that says something about our rapport with the Keene PD.
So a lot of this activism is basically waiting for something bad to happen and catch it on camera?
I think that's what a lot of people expect of when you go out and film the police, that you're looking for some sort of brutality. And sure, in many places across the country you could find it if you just go out with a camera in certain neighborhoods. But I mean, that's not really the case in Keene, that you're likely to just catch something strolling around. We've been out so often that they've come to expect that people are filming them. It seems like just about all the time, and it's made an impact. But here in Manchester, of course, that's very different. I was arrested here in Manchester a few years ago with the Chalking 8 arrests, and that was, there were people with cameras out, but they still made blatantly illegal arrests, just rounding people up for being in a protest. So when I'm out in Keene, I'm not expecting something bad to happen that I'm going to catch. I'm more just documenting and trying to create something out of that, as opposed to expecting something to just be created in front of me. So, I mean, it really depends what you're looking for and what you can expect to find in the community you're in at the time.
So, if I remember correctly, when you guys chalked the sidewalk, they arrested people and said that was graffiti.
Yep.
That somehow the chalk was damaging to the sidewalk was the argument that they made, but then at the same time they actually chalked people's private property.
Yes, and
Good
it
way
would
to
be
look at
illegal
it.
for the property owner of the vehicle to remove the chalk as well. They said if somebody came out and removed the chalk from their own car, they could also be charged with a felony.
That's ridiculous.
But yeah.
Can you talk about that one-party versus two-party consent again?
Yeah, one-party consent means that if you're in any situation, you're allowed to record it because you know you're recording it. And if a third party would be recording it, that would be considered wiretapping or someone eavesdropping. So right now, New Hampshire is a two-party consent state, which means that if you're in an instance where someone may believe they have privacy, I guess this would apply mostly to private residences, there's a question as to whether or not it applies to businesses. If somebody is if you're recording a private conversation with someone in a particular place, and they're under the expectation that they may not be recorded, I mean, but what does that mean nowadays? Because it's so easy to be recorded by so many different devices that how could one possibly be, like, if one's cell phone is being intercepted by a third party and used to record, is that person also guilty of wiretapping? Under the New Hampshire law, you kind of are, because anybody who endeavors to intercept a communication is guilty.
Except the
Right. They're operating outside of New Hampshire, so I guess they're outside of the jurisdiction. But this also brings into question newer technologies like recording devices or listening devices that are capable of hearing it at long distances. I guess people use these for hunting. So there's totally legitimate purposes, like non-spying on people in their homes and stuff, or just hearing people from afar. It seems interesting that one could just hear a conversation down the street. But right now that's kind of illegal in New Hampshire. If you're using something that records, I think the courts have defined it as like greater than the ear can hear, then you'd be doing some sort of wiretapping. I've noticed that with a camera, my Canon Vixia probably has the best microphone on it of my 3 video cameras. And that one does not pick up everything that the ear would be able to hear, because I'll hear something in a room at a hearing and it's just barely not even audible on the record. So I wonder if there's like a certain curve with the technology where the manufacturers don't want to make microphones that are too good or pick up too much because of the implications with the current wiretapping laws.
Doesn't that make hearing aids illegal?
Sure. Yeah. If anyone doesn't have anything else, I think I'm at time. I'm not sure.
You're good. Anything
Yeah.
else?
All right.
Yeah, check out the videos. Some are not related to parking enforcement. You may have seen the Maggie Hassan vodka commercial. That was one of my productions. Pretty proud of how that came out. And yeah, I'd love to see more spoof stuff, and they give us so much stupidness every day, so we might as well take advantage of it and use it.
Right on.
Thank you.